Greetings and salutations, one and all, and welcome to Film Shrapnel, your number one spot for everything movies. My name's Tobias. This is my partner in crime, Craig.
We've been meaning to do this for a while. I think this is like one of the first ideas we had, like having an Arnie month, because you're like a mega Arnie fan.
Love Arnie. He is my guy.
I don't think anybody knows as much about Arnie as you do, to be fair.
I mean, I've read his book, you know. Like, anyone who's read his book will know as much as me.
Didn't even know he could write.
He's written loads of books. But, like, I'm not really interested in learning how to be a better bodybuilder, so I'm not really going to be interested in reading those books. But I read his autobiography, where he talks about his life and all that. He glosses over that affair he had. He doesn't really go into it much, but he does talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really know about that. But all in all, I think most people like him, despite that controversy.
I don't know. I work with a guy who always tells me how much he hates him. Because I mention him frequently as, like, a fan. Like, I make Arnie references all the time, you know. Oh, I'm going to go grab a coffee. Does anyone want anything? No, I'll be back. You know, whatever. You know, just general quoting Arnie because I love all of his films. And this guy's like, fuck off Arnie. Hates Arnie so much. He also doesn't like Stallone as well. He's not into these guys.
It seems a bit petty. I kind of get it, but yeah, I would never get into it.
He's funny. He's funny. I like him. His just opinions are always going to be unshaken. Like, he hasn't watched The Matrix.
Okay. That's ridiculous.
And you ask him, well, why haven't you watched The Matrix? You'd probably really like it. And he goes, well, it's Keanu Reeves. And I'm like, why? He's like, no, just fucking Keanu Reeves. Don't like him.
Like, that's not how, you can't judge people on that kind of, like, you can't judge a movie just because someone's in it. Like, I used to find Channing Tatum really annoying. But if I never watched anything with him in, I would have missed some pretty good movies, actually. You can't judge it by an actor. People are complicated, you know. That's closed-minded.
I mean, sure, but, like, I'll be honest. Up until Robert Pattinson played Batman, I've actively avoided everything he was in. But then he was in the Batman, and I'm like, okay, he's actually fucking brilliant. So I started giving him a chance. He is actually very, very good.
Well, I think, yeah, because, like, a lot of actors, you know, like, when they start their careers, they end up being in a lot of crap stuff until they can, like, prove that they can make money, and then they start getting in some good movies. Like, I'm not surprised, like, Robert Pattinson, I don't think he was in much before, if anything, before, the Twilight movies, and then he got his name out there, right. Then he can make something good, you know?
He was the handsome man in Harry Potter 4, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I think he died, didn't he? Didn't his character die?
Yeah, he dies.
Yeah.
He dies at the end. Spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Harry Potter 4.
You know what? This is an interesting segue into the movie we're doing now, because we're doing Stay Hungry.
Yeah.
What year did this film come out? Is it 70s movie, maybe?
76, I believe. So this is before, like, okay, can we just go through some of the people that are in this movie, Craig?
Go on.
But before we even get into the nitty and gritty of the film, you've got a very young Arnold Schwarzenegger. This was technically his first film, if you don't count Hercules in New York, which, you know, they tried to bury that shit because they knew it would kill his career. Which you can go and find and watch. It's mental. It's not very good, but it is kind of charming in its own way. But so this was technically his, like, first role. And he actually did win an Academy Award for this, for Best Newcomer. So, you know, and I do think Arnie's great in this, but, let's look at the rest of the cast, because there are so many big names in this film. And, you know, this is such no one has ever heard of Stay Hungry. I feel like just because I feel like I wouldn't have known this film if it wasn't just such a mega Arnie super fan that like I've gone and found all of his movies and watched them. And I think this one is like a really rare gem of a film with a really, really stellar cast that were not big at the time. So you've got Jeff fucking Bridges. You've got the dude, man. Like whatever, man. You've got Jeff fucking Bridges. You've got Sally Field. I always liked Sally Field, but obviously, like, I've seen films with her when she's a lot older. Like, for example, that, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man film. She's Aunt May. Now, she has always been someone that I've thought was a very good actress, but I've never seen her this young in a film before. And I think she was way better, when she was younger. Like, she's really sort of immersed herself in this role. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like it's a complicated role to play, but she's so different to what I have grown used to from Sally Field that, you know, it really does surprise me. It's like seeing Marissa Tomei in My Cousin Vinny. It's just, if you've watched The Wrestler and you think she's incredible, and then you watch My Cousin Vinny, you're like, oh, I was not expecting this, like, you know, or whatever, or you actually have completely transformed yourself from, you know, what you're really like, even though it's a, you know, just a generally funny little film, nothing too special about it. But enough about My Cousin Vinny. I've gone off on a massive tangent. So, Sally Field, fantastic. Did you notice anyone else in this?
Yes, Robert Englund.
Robert Englund.
Freddy Krueger.
Fucking Freddy Krueger as a grease boy. I love it. And this is pre-Freddy Krueger. This predates Nightmare on Elm Street by about 8 years or something. When was the Nightmare on Elm Street? Like 84? 86?
Ooh, I can't remember, but probably the 80s, yeah.
Definitely the 80s, but like, I'm not sure what year. But it's sort of like, you're looking at least sort of 6 years. 6 to 8 years before he becomes huge. He's this random little, you know, squeaky dude that will look after his mates. See, I like him. He's a good character. I really like Robert Englund in this. He defends really giant people, and he's the one doing the fighting sometimes. And you're like, yeah, you're cool, you are. So yeah, Robert Englund. Did you notice anyone else?
I did notice, well, I was curious about the guy who played the gym owner. I forgot his name, but I did see that he was in Predator.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yes, he is. And the guy who works for the Jeff Bridges, like, estate, William, that's Scatman Crothers.
Oh, I saw here, but I don't know who he is. He's a musician, I believe?
Yeah. I mean, he's an artist.
Crazy cast.
He's an artist. You know, he's an entertainer, a talented human being.
You make me feel uncultured sometimes, you bastard.
But do you not recognize him? He does play a character in something that we both like and we both should recognize.
Please tell me, because I'll feel foolish.
Think Kubrick.
Oh, no way. Is he the guy from The Shining?
Yes.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Oh, he feels older in this movie than he is in The Shining. But where was The Shining, actually?
That was 1980. No, it was 1980, The Shining, so it was only 4 years later.
But he feels older in this film than he does in The Shining.
I agree.
Maybe it's the white hair. I don't know. Because I think isn't he bald maybe in The Shining, or am I wrong? It's been a while since I watched that.
He is bald in The Shining, yes.
Maybe that shaved off a few years. Wow, that's crazy.
I mean, to be fair, he's also in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as well. So he's collaborated with Jack Nicholson a couple of times.
Okay, fair play. I should have done a bit more research on this.
Should definitely know who Scatman Crothers is.
I should. I feel a bit ashamed now.
Well, okay, so we've talked about the cast. I think I'm not missing anyone, but we talked about the cast. Let's talk the film. So, first impressions, Craig, because I've seen this a few times, being an Arnie fan.
Yeah.
And I wrote something in my notes that I will read verbatim after your opinion. What do you think?
The first thing that came to my mind is that Americans can actually say Craig correctly. When it starts off, we see Jeff Bridges like riding a horse. It's very gentle, by the way, very calm and gentle, nice. It feels very old at the beginning. And you have this whole thing from, what's his name? Uncle something. Uncle Albert.
Uncle Albert.
It's like, dear Craig. And then it's like something about his father. And then his mother. And it's just, yeah, it's kind of weird to hear my name in that accent. I was not prepared for that.
That's weird though, isn't it? That there's like two of my best friends. One's called Craig, one's called Blake. And we should have gotten Blake on the podcast for this one.
Yeah, that would have been funny. The beginning of this film, like, it shifts tonally. Well, do you want my initial perception of the film from the beginning, or my whole perception of the movie?
I mean, just tell me your whole idea of the film, basically, because I'm like really, really curious.
Yeah, it is. And I was thinking, like, it's supposed to be a drama comedy, I think. But it feels very much like if this came out today, it'd be very much an indie movie. It'd be under that kind of banner.
Yeah.
But yeah, what surprised me mostly, it's kind of a bit mixed up, like what it's trying to be, but it's still good. I still liked it. It feels a bit like the genre is not very clear. Yeah, but I don't like, I was also thinking, does that have to be a problem? I mean, do movies always have to have very clear genre boundaries? I don't think so. If they're good, they're good. But I didn't realize this was set in the South, and in Birmingham, which I thought was very interesting.
Oh yeah.
Because you never see Birmingham in anything. Whenever you think of the South, you always just think of the countryside, openness, emptiness, and it being kind of impoverished and people being closed-minded. But this movie is set in the city in the South, and it's interesting. I don't know why they chose that location for this movie. Maybe it was just cheaper to shoot in Alabama. I don't think any of the cast are actually from there, but they're all doing Southern accents. So I can't tell you if their accents are any good because I'm not from that part of America.
It is
I'm not from anywhere there.
It is a very interesting choice. It doesn't feel like a typical film. It's just strange. Everything. Can I read you what I said?
Go on.
I had to get my thoughts down when I finished the film. It's a strange film that features characters unlike anyone I've seen. Weird people doing weird shit. It's a film about class. Bodybuilding just happens to be at the center of it. I don't really know what I think. There's a lot of movies squished together here. Is it good? Sort of. It's not bad. Maybe lacks focus. That's my general roundup of the film.
I think that's a good summary of it, to be honest, yeah. I mean, I really liked it being in the South at this time, actually, and trying to show it in a bit of a better light. Because it's a bustling city and it's got diverse people who have different interests and stuff like this. But yeah, also the class aspect of it is quite a big thing.
No, absolutely. I think the class division in this is a massive, massive theme. And I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I found like the story between Jeff Bridges and Sally Field, it felt an awful lot like a gender reversal of Jack and Rose on the Titanic. It just felt like their love, like development and stuff. It really and like the world around them, it felt very much in the same sort of guise as Titanic, just not on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
Like you take the Titanic out of Titanic, you get a love story, and I feel like this film is structured just like it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But the class element of it makes it a bit more complicated because he's from a certain circle and she's not. But
Hmm.
he's kind of going against the grain a little bit, but not at 100%. Uh, but yeah,
Was
can we
Let's
talk?
quickly run through the plot just so we can like get into the
Yes.
nitties. We've got like Jeff Bridges, who's like this high-so money guy. He's surrounded by these really like creepy fucking sleazy money men. And like, I think they're building like some, or they're trying to like get to enough of the property to build like a complex of some kind. I forget now what they specify. But there's like one holdout and it's the gym. And Jeff Bridges has to go and basically convince them to sell him the gym. And then they'll all make a fortune. And he just sort of falls in love with the people there and the, the lifestyle of being like a gym rat. You know, he befriends Arnie, he befriends, everyone. Everyone likes him. He gets on with everyone. And he likes them. To be fair, like we do find out, that his parents died in a plane accident, maybe like the previous year or like 2 years ago, something like that. So like the Jeff Bridges character, it really is a story about someone getting a bit loose because of a traumatic event and trying to sort of refine themselves, and they do it in a completely different circle with completely different people. And it shows him,
Hmm.
the values of working men rather than money men. And he likes it a lot more. And I suppose
Yeah,
that's the whole movie, like in a nutshell. But
yeah,
there is bodybuilding in there. It's sprinkled in.
yeah. It makes, well, maybe we need to talk a bit about Arnie here and his whole performance here because I find it very interesting that they made him Austrian and they played that like he was brought over by the gym owner from Austria, like he did everything that like all the documents and everything to bring him there, and he's playing a bodybuilder. So Arnie is really being himself here, which I find
Yeah.
like I don't think he's ever been this close to himself, which is really interesting. And I think that probably when this film came out, the critics must have really appreciated that he's kind of playing himself, you know. Uh, and he does it really well. He's really gentle and nice,
Well,
and he's super
yeah,
relatable here, more relatable than ever.
in, in all fairness though, the following year to Stay Hungry, the documentary Pumping Iron came out. And in that, he is himself in the gym doing a documentary about gym stuff. And he is such a bellend in it.
Really?
He is such a muppet. Yeah, there's one bit where he's like, no, when you're at the gym and you get your pump on, it feels like an orgasm. It feels like you're coming. So, I go to work, I come all day, and then I go home with the beautiful lady, I come all night. He's like, I'm coming all the time. You're like,
Wow.
fucking what? I know it's really, really weird. But he does mention in the book, uh, that he only said that to try and make bodybuilding edgy, because up until that point, people really looked down on it. So he was trying to make it cool and edgy and sort of, be like a character kind of thing. But, you know, still a really odd choice to say it's like, because obviously there's a lot, like, they even mention it in Stay Hungry in one scene, but like a lot of people have attributed, like back then, bodybuilding was seen as quote unquote pretty gay. Like it was associated
Hmm.
with like homosexual culture. A lot of homophobic people really didn't like, uh, bodybuilders, and there was a lot of actors who were having to do bodybuilding in secret because they were worried that it was going to ruin their image, that people find out that they're like in a gym. Or I don't know why people saw bodybuilding this way, but they did. And like, there's a story in Arnie's book where he was speaking to Clint Eastwood in the 70s or something, And Clint Eastwood was a fan of his, but he was like, no, but I have to keep it quiet. Like, I need to keep in shape, but like, I have to do it in like, a secret way, which I thought was it's really strange how people saw bodybuilding back then. And this film really tries to not feature that, but they mention it one time and then it's done.
They do, yeah. That woman that's with Craig, and she asked him, like, he's like, am I a homosexual? Do you want me to show you or something like this? And yeah, I think that's the only time they mention it. But I agree with you that it's pretty weird now, because I don't think anybody really thinks of it that way at all. It's interesting how it's changed over the course of 40-something years.
But in all fairness, you might actually have Arnie to attribute to that. That's the thing. He was actively trying back then to give bodybuilding an image that was more agreeable. But like, it was such a weird way of seeing bodybuilding. I can't imagine a harder thing to do. Okay, now that does sound gay.
Did you notice that he had a mole or something on the right side of his face?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's in my notes. That, like, his mole he must have got rid of it, like, after this. I think it's in Pumping Iron as well. I think he's got it in Pumping Iron too. But yeah, he had a big old fucking mole on his face.
That's interesting that we did, like, just never knew that he would have had surgery or anything like that. I always just thought that he was just, straight up kind of guy with that kind of stuff. But he did also take steroids at one point, right? I believe.
Of course.
Like early on in his career or something.
Anyone that size has to be taking steroids. Like, it evens the playing field. Like, as much as I don't agree with steroid use, like, if everyone's doing it, then you're at a disadvantage in the competitions, so they're gonna do it. If everyone else is, then of course he is. And like I say, the size of him, like, there's no way he's not juicing. Certainly back then he must have been. Like, maybe he's weaned off it. Who knows? But of course he was on steroids.
I think probably he did.
You can't get that, like, yeah, there's no way. There's no way. Not that size. He's fucking massive. And he's perfectly proportioned. He looks like a Greek statue in, like, certainly the older films he's in. It's like, Jesus Christ, like, it really does look like David or any of those other Greek statues. It's like just perfect form and definition. Fucking hell, it's mental. He does call himself a sculptor in his book. He just uses muscle instead of clay.
Yeah, we should do a whole podcast where it's just his book.
We just read his book live.
Basically, yeah. But I like that they gave him some motivation as well, like this idea that he's basically brought over from Austria. He has basically no money. He's in debt to the gym owner. And he kind of basically has to win this competition to kind of buy himself a bit of freedom. So I like that that's his motivation. I think that's really nice. It's very human as well. And he feels a bit like, because I don't know if this, like, until maybe the 90s when he started doing more comedy stuff, this is a movie where he doesn't do any fighting, actually. Does he even fight anybody in this? I think Robert Englund does more fighting than Arnie does.
Yeah. Freddy Krueger gets in the way of the fight. Like, Arnie and Jeff Bridges gets, into a couple of scrapes as well. But Arnie doesn't fight anyone in this film. Did you like Jeff Bridges in this?
I was going to ask you about him, yeah. To be honest, I haven't seen him in as many things. I mean, he's quite young here. I think he does a good job, in this role. I liked him. I think he fits it well. Yeah, I don't know what else really to say about him. I mean, yeah, I think everyone always associates him with the dude, from The Big Lebowski. That's the first thing that always comes to my mind.
the thing is, like with Jeff
Yeah.
Bridges, most of the stuff I've seen him in, he's a lot older. So, like, as you say, Big Lebowski, but then like Iron Man, he's the bad guy. He's in that R.I.P.D. film that's awful with Ryan Reynolds. And he always plays like these, like True Grit as well. Like he's always this
Mm-hmm.
like gruffled sort of, rough around the edges guy, or he can be like, pristine as well. In Iron Man, he's, very well put together and groomed. So he's got these vibes. But in this one, like, he is like handsome man on a horse. First shot of the film. Like, it's like it's like
Yeah.
on top of a mountain almost, with the wind flowing through his golden locks. Like, I've never seen Jeff Bridges do a character like this before. He's always been, to me, a character actor. And in this, he is a typical, like, DiCaprio-esque leading man, which I've never seen from him before.
And he carries it well. It's weird to see him with color in his hair. Like everything, yeah. Pretty much he's always been in my head, grey haired and bearded. Like he's never been another way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking also about his father, because I recently found out that his father was Lloyd Bridges. And he he had a kind of resurgence in the late 80s and 90s in a lot of comedy things. And it's quite weird to think, yeah, maybe just like his father, he kind of got a bit more popular of age, I guess. His father was in some of the Naked Gun movies, I think. And also Honey, I Blew Up the Kids. Or no, was it Blew Up the Kid? That one.
Honey, I Shrunk
One
the
of the
Kids.
ones of these. I think he's not in that one, but I think he's in the second one. Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, where the toddler gets gigantic. And he's like some rich guy.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. I think it's Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting.
Honey, I Blew Up the Baby. Honey, I Blew Up the Baby. Also, he's got his brother as well, though, Beau Bridges. He's alright.
Didn't even know he had a brother.
Max Payne. You ever watch Max Payne with Mark Wahlberg? Beau Bridges is in that.
No, never watched it. But speaking of characters, should we talk about the gym owner guy, who I think is probably the most, I don't know, in my opinion, the most interesting character.
Yeah, I agree.
He's also quite fucked
character because, very fucked up. And, I mean, like in my notes, it's just like, the ending of the film, like, I suppose if we maybe seen more of his character, we may have saw it coming maybe, but like, he's just such a well-liked character the whole movie. And then at the end of the movie, they do a little bit of drugs and boom, absolute horror show.
Off the rails. Yeah.
It was very difficult to watch because it's like when there's a character you like and then they go off the cliff. Poor Sally Field.
Yeah, he just goes completely off the rails, like when they bring in some cocaine and some hookers, and you don't really see it. There is one point earlier where he's like spying on the women doing yoga, I think, where you kind of see that he's maybe a bit of a pervy, dodgy guy. But yeah, it goes much further, yeah. And he's kind of sad because like he's his own worst enemy when he does that, because he's basically destroying his business. And yeah, it's unfortunate. Because I was also thinking again, because it kind of ties into the tone of the movie kind of changing a lot around that point. And there's also, I think at the same time that's happening, I'm skipping ahead. We haven't really discussed the plot too clearly, to be honest. But basically, as you can imagine,
because there's no plot.
There is like a body. There's not really a plot. No, it's a bit hard to summarize this movie. But there is a bodybuilding competition that happens towards the end of the film. And it's happening at the same time, of course, as the sleazy guys that Craig works with are trying to buy the gym. There is so at one point you have the gym owner going absolutely nuts on coke, smashing up his place, fighting Craig, protecting Sally, and then at the bodybuilding competition, what's his name? Joe Santo. He hears that something is breaking, like the gym's being smashed up or something. There's a fight. He has to go save Sally. So he runs away and everyone thinks that he's stolen the money. And you have this kind of like wacky thing that like there's like everybody's chasing each other down the street because they think Joe has run away with the cash money for the competition. And it gets a bit silly there. And you have like, people just start stopping the bodybuilders and want them to just start flexing and stuff. And it's like, what is happening here? How did it become like this? Like now it's trying to be a comedy. Meanwhile, you got a cokehead smashing up his place trying to kill, Craig. So I don't know. It's a bit weird, the ending.
It is. And like the problem is the climax of the film really didn't require any of the rest of the film to happen. Like it just sort of happens. It comes out of nothing. Like there's no build up really to it. All they've really done, they've established characters, and then you think the story is about Jeff Bridges really, and how he is sort of learning to love people that he once thought he was in a different class to, or looked down on in some way. And it's really about him sort of falling in love with the culture of being a bodybuilder as well. Like, not that he's a bodybuilder, but he's getting into working out and he's like talking about life with Arnie and stuff. And then he's falling in love with a girl who the people in his life look down on. And, it's interesting seeing the way he handles that party, and he brings her. And like people start like making comment on her dress, and he's like, yeah, it's unusual, but it's nice. But like, they're all basically just calling her cheap or trashy and doing it with a smile on their face. And I thought, it's interesting how Jeff Bridges handles it, because he sort of he's distant from her. He even implies that she's not even his friend, she's Arnie's friend. At one point, is it Uncle Albert or someone? But he's like, it's not really my friend. Then it's, kind of my friend. And so it's like, well, how does he see her? Is he embarrassed of her? And then the way he deals with it is getting absolutely paralytically drunk and making a total tit of himself.
He's an absolute arsehole to her.
You know what? He is an absolute arsehole to her. And Sally Field, she just lets him take her home, and then she just packs a bag and fucks off. Good girl. Because it was bang out of order. It's like he's embarrassed of her. So, and the thing, and it's disappointing because you actually really like their chemistry and the romance that they've built on screen. That like when he behaves like that, you're like, fuck, I was invested in you two.
Yeah, but I kind of also understand why he's a bit like that, because I think he's supposed to be unsure of himself. Although he it's not too
of course.
direct.
He's recovering from his parents' death.
Yeah, but also he seems to want to do something different, because I think early on in the film, in Uncle Albert's letter, he mentions how like Craig is not going to go into the steel industry or something. So I think the money in the family comes from the steel industry, and he's going kind of a different direction, and he's more interested in property development. Even though you see that when you first see him in the room with these sleazy guys, he doesn't seem like them. He seems more, I don't know, nicer kind of guy. They just seem to be like a bunch of assholes that just think everyone they work with is stupid and they just care about money. He's kind of like a nicer guy. He doesn't have the same mentality as them. Yeah, and he meets the bodybuilder guys and he kind of makes friends with them. He's trying to figure out where he fits in the world. So I think that kind of is why when he brings Sally to this party, he's a bit of a dick because he doesn't know how to put these two worlds together yet, because they're so different, and he just comes
Mm.
off as a dick. But also, what is the point of Uncle Albert? Like, we start off with this letter that he's written to Craig, and then it kind of just it explains part of his character, and then like we see him a couple of points, but he doesn't really add anything to it. And why is there any point to him at all? Like, there's not really a significance to him. He doesn't tie anything together later or midway through the story. He just seems like a plot device at the beginning to give some exposition, I think.
But this is it. Like, I feel like the whole movie is like that. Like, the entire film, it is so disjointed. Nothing seems to really matter. Like, we're getting a series of scenes, and normally what we're used to with movies is they coherently work together to make a plot. And like, this isn't really like that. Like, it's just a series, like, it's just things happening to the same people. New, like, I don't know how else to describe it, because there's not really much going on. And like, the bodybuilding thing just feels like it's slapped on, maybe. But I would have liked to have seen maybe it focus more on the bodybuilding culture. It's not just about that. Like, it's mostly about class. The themes are mostly about, you know, his stature and where his parents' stature were. Even Scatman Crothers calls him out and says, like, you're not even, he basically calls him working trash, like working class white trash, and then quits his job. But like, it's, I don't know, because I feel all the high society stuff, like, it just makes my skin crawl. I hate it all. I hate the seedy, gross guys, the property developers. I hate all of the high-so fucking, you know, fancy people that bully Arnie. How can you bully Arnie?
Oh yeah, I
Don't
forgot
bully
about that
Arnie.
scene.
Let him have
Because
his
he can play the
cowboy
fiddle,
shirt.
right? Is it the
Can
fiddle
he?
he plays? Well, I think they kind of jump over
But
it, but
can
his
he play
character
it?
is supposed to. Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, but like,
But
can Arnie play the fiddle? There's one bit where he's playing it and his fingers are just moving. I don't know, but you're like, you don't even look like you're playing it. Don't even look like it. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think so. I don't think he can play the fiddle. If he can, Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you're out there listening, and of course you are, please tell us if you can play the fiddle. And maybe you can do a guest spot on the pod where we can feature your fiddle playing.
if he could play the fiddle, wouldn't he be doing it in like every
I'm sure
movie?
he's listening.
Bit like, bit like how he has so many different
Yeah.
catchphrases.
Like, we know he can punch a guy because he does that in every film, but not in this. Not in this one.
Yeah, but like, I mean, we said a lot of random stuff, like stuff about this movie that doesn't really make sense and is a bit tricky to define and everything. But at the end, I think
Incoherent.
this movie, yeah, this movie really put Arnie on the movie map. 'Cause like it's one thing to be a
Mm.
muscle guy and to fight and to
Yeah,
do action scenes, but here he's showing I can act.
sure.
I can I can do some like he's not the best actor in the world, but he's able to get stuff done and show a bit of range. And also, I'm not sure if I would say he's very humorous in this movie, but one thing I've always liked about Arnie is that he can do a bit of comedy. He can be a bit stupid and goofy, and even though he's this big
Mm.
muscle guy, he doesn't always need to be so serious. He can be a bit laid back, even though he's like super muscular and stuff. So like, Yeah, I think this movie probably really helped. I think this is a very important movie for him, like in establishing his career later on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, around this sort of time, he did another film. I think I've mentioned it to you before. I think it's called The Villain. And it's got, I think it's like Burt Reynolds or something, or Kurt Lancaster, someone like that. And it's like a Wile E. Coyote kind of thing. And it's basically a cartoon, but live action. And again, it's about a guy, Arnold Schwarzenegger, his character's called Handsome Stranger. And he's just trying to get from point A to point B. And on his way, this sort of dastardly Dick-esque character is like trying to like set up traps and stuff for him along the way, and they always keep backfiring. So it's very like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner in structure. But like, he's the straight man, but he's funny because the whole film is a comedy. So his straightness actually really is perfect for the film, like being the straight man, not being the funny one. And I quite like him in it. I've only seen it the one time, but it was quite a giggle. So he did that. So he had a hand in comedy back in the 70s with that. He'd worked with, is it the Long Good Friday or the Long Goodbye, something like that. He did, not Long Good Friday. I think it's the Long Goodbye, I think it's called. And he's just like a henchman in it. He's in the background just as a henchman. I think that predates Stay Hungry. I'm not sure. So he was really trying to sort of put his finger in as many pies as possible, you know, in this sort of era. And Stay Hungry's his sort of like, I'm a serious actor as well kind of role. You know, take me more seriously as an artist because I'm doing like a really solid film, where I'm required to actually act and not just look strong, which, let's be honest, is why he's become famous. So he's gotten very good at picking things up and putting things down in quick succession until his muscles get big. And fair play, I still really admire him. I love him. Although I will say, did you not, what was with that whole Batman look, that budget Batman look he had? He wears the costume twice to work out. Why?
Yeah.
Why are you dressed like that to work out?
Well,
I don't understand.
Well, Craig asks him.
Craig?
He says, it's just like a bit of fun, you know. I think it's supposed to just be him goofing around with the guys when he exercises sometimes. That's it. And then they're like playing on the drums and being buffoons.
Well, that's dumb.
But yeah, it is a bit weird.
It's dumb.
It is. But you know, I just remembered there was another bit that confused me. Do you remember when, so the sleazy real estate guys send in some guys to break into the gym and start smashing stuff? Robert Englund, is it, how do you pronounce his name? It's supposed to be just pronounced as England, just as you. I'm gonna say England. I guess it's England. Whatever.
I think it's
he goes there, he starts fighting the guys. Englund. So where did that come from? I'd love to know the origins of that last name. Yeah. So he gets into a fight with these guys who are smashing up the gym. And there is one bit, I wrote the note down and I can't remember it precisely what happened. But he's like, says, black ball, left pocket. And he's like fighting them. I think maybe he's using like a snooker cue. What happened there? Because I don't think you see it properly on in the film.
Did you not get it?
Do you remember this? Tell me, is he just smacking the ball into his balls?
Yeah, he's basically using the snooker cue, like, to basically pop his left testicle.
Okay.
Or is it his right testicle? One of his testicles. But yeah.
Or the left pocket, so it should be the left testicle.
Exactly. 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 So it's his left. Or, yeah, whatever. He got his balls hurt, is the point.
Okay,
And then,
okay, makes
obviously,
sense.
years go by and he takes his time to plan his revenge and he will return in your dreams and he will get them. He'll get you. I love Freddy Krueger. I love that he's in this. I really love A Nightmare on Elm Street. I love Robert Englund. I'm a huge fan. So seeing him in this, like, I know we're doing like a season of Arnie films, but let's be honest, Arnie is not the main character in this. He's not even the focal point of this movie. There's just he's just a guy in the fucking movie. Like, there's really no reason for him to be there besides the fact that it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um, the film really revolves around Jeff Bridges and Sally Field.
Yeah, I
And the
agree.
bodybuilding is just sort of circumstantial and just sort of in the background, you know. And then there's Robert Englund, and I think he's the best thing in it. If I'm honest, I think he's the one that gives the best performance. Like, he's a character actor. So, and he's not playing like like Jeff Bridges is having to be like super handsome for the whole movie. So like, that's got to be a lot of work. Good job, Jeff. But Robert Englund, he's your actor in the movie. He's really given the performance that's holding everything together, I think. I think he's great in it. I think Sally Field's great in it as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I kind of miss this sometimes in 70s movies where it feels like all the characters are like well developed. Do you know what I mean? It's not always the
Mm,
case, obviously,
yeah,
but so in some 70s things, it feels like every character is quite defined before they went in to
yeah.
start
And they all
making the
get a
film.
chance to breathe as well in the film.
Exactly, yeah. They get their moment to be on screen, basically, like all of them, basically. And it doesn't feel like you get that so much today.
Hmm. Let me ask you this, because this is one thing that I was confused by. Not because it was done badly, just because I think it was strange. Um, the flirting they do, where she hurts her foot, and they do
Yeah,
this like foot massage thing where he's like, every part of your foot has like equates to a part of your body, and he's like rubbing up her feet, and so he's like, so this is your back, sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, that could be kind of sensual. But then he starts like talking about her liver, and I'm like, that's not sexy. It's really weird. And she seems to be really into it as well. She starts like, wrapping herself around him. The moment he gets to the liver, she's like, oh, and you're like, what? What? How was that sexy? I didn't
yeah.
find that sexy. I thought the idea, the
Well, she just,
concept of it was kind of cute and sexy, but the moment you start bringing organs into it, I'm just like, what? That's weird. I don't like, yeah,
she just
that
wanted
would
to
take me out
bang.
of the moment. I know she just wanted to bang. She bangs. But you know what? Like, if I was in that scenario, if I was Sally Field, the moment you would have said liver, that's the moment I'd have been, oh, okay, I'm not in the mood anymore. Sorry. You just took it too far. And then what did she say? So what part's my mouth? That was her
Yeah.
response to the liver. You're like, what? What? Mental. Don't know who wrote that, but who wrote this? Tell me it was
No
Arnie. That'd be
idea.
so fun. Um, I will
Right.
say one thing though, and I think we kind of have to talk about it, but it's going to be difficult to talk about, especially that we didn't live in that time. But like 70s America in the South, uh,
Hmm.
I felt that there were very problematic portrayals of black people in this film for the pretty much the whole film. Like,
Well,
I would need to pick my
I
words
was also
carefully,
thinking about
but
that.
like, hmm,
So I did read about this film. It's kind of classed as like the New South. like they're trying to uh, give the South a bit of a brush up, make it look a bit more modern. And you do feel that because it's set in Birmingham, and you see, like a big thing you keep mentioning is the class. And I think that it's not just class. I think it's specifically Southern Alabama class, and that kind of part of it. And I was thinking, it seems to be going more this direction than like a race thing. But everyone always thinks of, when they think of the South, at least from, I don't know, we're two British guys here. We think of the race element of it because it's such a huge part of the history there. It's enormous.
Yeah.
Like I even studied this in secondary school. Like we did a big thing on South and race and everything, and it's really messed up, really fucked up what happened down there. And it's still really massively unequal today. And so I think that they were trying to, I think there's only really two black characters in this film. There's William, and there's the guy from the gym who I can't remember his name. And I think that what they wanted to do
to him by a racial stereotype.
Yeah, at one point, the gym owner tells one of the prostitutes to call him Wamba or something like that. That was really fucked up. But I think that they wanted to.
Exactly, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Wamba. And I think what they tried to do was I think that they felt that they couldn't make a film in the South about class without kind of addressing race to a degree. Yeah, I mean, they can't not have, because racism still exists. Racism is still very much there. The gym owner might hire a guy who's black, but doesn't mean that he respects him or won't say racist shit. He still will. I mean, so I don't know. Yeah, it's troubling, but I think it's kind of purposeful. I think it's supposed to be that way, because to make it without that would not be realistic, I guess. At least that's the way I see it.
No, absolutely. And there are other black characters, there are other black people in the movie, but they're sort of in the background. I feel like that's also, I don't know if you've seen some of these old Fred Astaire films, but black people are literally scenery. They are seen, not heard. It's shit. So, that was the feeling I got from this. I feel like there should be more involvement from Scatman Crothers for sure. You've got a fantastic actor there, and you're not utilising him fully. You've got the guy in the gym. He's also he's a very weird character actually. Can we talk about what he does to the prostitute? Because that's
yeah, go on.
So what he wants the gym owner Thor to I guess think he's smashing the prostitute so he doesn't have to, because he doesn't want to. But the way he goes about it is he gags her and ties her up. And when someone comes in, she reveals that she thought he was going to kill her. So is that the best way to go about it? And then he starts massaging her at one point as well, and criticizing her skin. And you're like, this is weird. And then he starts talking about how he's going to open a chicken farm with his bones. It was just such a strange sequence of events.
Yeah.
Really odd.
He didn't have to tie her up. He could have been like, look, let's just pretend, because my boss is really mental right now. Let's just pretend that we did something. You're still going to get paid and everything. We don't have to do nothing. Just don't let him, because I don't know. He didn't have to tie her up. That was weird.
But I would have liked that character to have had more room to breathe in the film as well, because then, we might have given more of a shit about him in that moment where he's basically being forced by his boss to, be a degenerate. So, it would have been interesting to have gotten to know him a bit more, care about him a bit more, and then that scene might have had a little bit more weight, because Let's be honest, that scene really only exists to set up the mindset of Thor for the climax of the film, where he tries to, how do we say it on a podcast without getting blacklisted, force himself upon Sally Field, even though he's meant to be this father figure to her. We hear a lot about how he's been a father figure to all of these people and helped them out and, made sure they've been on their feet. He's financially supported them and all this. So we hear how much of a great guy he is to these people. So like when he shifts his focus, when Sally Field gets in, then, like terrifying. Don't they say at the end that he's going to get arrested for 10 years? He's going to be in jail for 10 years at the end of the film.
I didn't catch that bit. But does that mean that he did R-word her? Because otherwise, what crime has he committed?
So, I mean, it's possible that he R-words her, but the policeman outside, when the guy's like, did you find any money? The policeman outside says, like, there's enough charges here to put him away for 10 years. And one of the charges he lists is attempted sexual assault. So that would imply he didn't manage to do anything because Jeff Bridges interrupted or whatever. And what a mental decision to get on the fucking gear the day before this bodybuilding tournament that you've been talking about. You're the one that's kept reminding people, bodybuilding tournament, gonna win lots of money, don't lose focus, blah, blah, blah. And you're the one that, like, fucks the whole thing up. Oh, God. It's such a tragic character.
Yeah, but we've all done it. I think everyone's done it, like, prepared for something for a super long time, and literally the day before you make a really stupid decision that impacts the actual day you've been waiting for. So I get that. Yeah, I think it's believable. It's tragic, as you say, but it's very, very believable.
Yeah, it's very tragic, but it is, I can buy it. But I will say, because we probably should wrap up, I've got a couple of like small points that I want to bring up that we haven't mentioned yet. And since we're on Thor the gym owner, can we talk about his fucking hair?
Yes.
It's mental. Mental. Like, he's bald the whole film, but you only get the reveal at the end. And it's like, but we know. Like, oh wow, what a hairpiece it was. What a hairpiece.
Very greasy, also, 70s looking hairpiece.
Yeah. Also, the Mr. Universe contest, I don't understand why he was collecting the money for it anyway. It's a yearly bodybuilding tournament. I can't imagine he's the one that are they suggesting he is the guy that does the Mr. Universe tournaments? Because if he is, he shouldn't really be struggling for money. Or maybe back then he would have. I don't know.
But you're talking about Thor. Thor was collecting the money.
Yeah.
For the other participants, like outside his gym?
Yeah.
Isn't that then kind of a bit of
for everyone
conflict of interest to then have to train someone for the competition? I don't know. Is that a bit dodgy? No?
Of course it is. Of course. Yeah. That's a definite conflict of interest. In a court of law, they'd say that's a conflict of interest, that is. I do really, really love the expression "stay hungry," especially when Arnie says it in that scene where Jeff Bridges asks him, like, "Are you going to see the girl again?" And he's like, "No, I don't like being too comfortable. It's easy to, get used to it. It's easy to enjoy it. I'd rather stay hungry." I'm like, fucking title drop for the movie, obviously, but like, that really is his whole sort of idea. But you know, when you read his book, if you ever read his book, like he's very motivational, and he's like, you know, once you finish doing something, instead of relaxing, then you know, he's like, when you climb one mountain, don't just stop at the peak and you know, and that be it. There's another peak on the next mountain over the horizon. You just go to that one next, and you know, stuff like that. You know, you can't help but feel motivated. And I can't help but think that this line might have been a Schwarzenegger contribution, because it is the sort of shit he says in his book a lot. Like a lot. I don't know if that's true, but like, it's definitely the best line of the film. And he has it. He gets to say it. And it really does sort of, it encapsulates his entire, you know, persona as a bodybuilder in real life. So I can't help but wonder if he came up with that line, or maybe the writer literally took his life and was like, yeah, okay, this is what you should say. Like, I will turn your life into a sentence.
I think at this point in his career, I don't think Arnie would have had much influence over the script. I mean, if it happened a bit later, for sure. But this early on, I don't know. Although it does fit him very well, yeah, based on what you're saying.
It's perfect. It really is perfect for it. One last thing I wanted to mention was Jeff Bridges, despite being incredibly handsome and in great shape in this film, jean shorts don't look good on anyone, man. They look awful. Okay, get rid.
I'm
Wear
very
something else.
I'm very
Jean
happy you
shorts,
said that.
serious?
I've never understood jeans shorts, man. I've never understood. I've seen people wearing them, like, aren't your balls just like sweating to fuck? Like, they're just so uncomfortable. Like, just wear regular shorts. Jeans are for like the winter. They shouldn't exist in short form.
And he's wearing them in like a swimming pool at one point. So we're talking like wet denim. That gets heavy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Jean shorts are just a terrible, terrible idea. We mentioned like the big posing thing. What were your thoughts on the pose off that they do at the end in the street?
So I thought it was kind of a bit interesting how they did the whole lighting and the camera movement at that point, because it felt quite more cinematic than most of the film has been to this point. And very clearly, like, you kind of see that no one can beat Arnie because he's the most toned guy there. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't really amaze me.
Well,
I thought the stuff that they added around, like, with the kind of competition, I didn't really see the point of that, to be honest, either.
If
I
I'm
mean,
perfectly
like,
honest,
these,
I think they should have shown more of the competition.
yes, but I don't know. It just adds another random, like, yeah, I do believe, because I actually thought, like you, I thought this film was going to be completely about bodybuilding, like, just only about that. But because of the way that it goes, I do feel like, what was the point of even having, like, oh, is there a possibility he might lose? It just didn't feel like there was ever a possibility that he was going to lose the competition. Did it?
But it was never important. The whole movie, it's like he's going to win. Everyone's saying he's going to win. So like, there's never a moment where you're worried for him. Everyone knows he's going to win this competition. I will say though, the guy he's posing with at the end there, in like for the little bit of the competition we see, he was like one of Arnie's real world friends, I think, or rivals in bodybuilding. But the thing is, Arnie was just, in terms of bodybuilding, like, Arnie has the right size as well. Like, he's tall, so he can hold more, and he can hold more without being disproportional to the rest of his body. Whereas when you have a shorter guy, it does look a little bit stranger. Whereas Arnie can hold it well because he's a huge fucking tank of a human being. Like,
How tall is
when you've
he?
got like these
Do you
shorter
know?
guys, they look really strange.
He's 11 centimeters taller than Sylvester Stallone, which is interesting.
Oh, I bet he made sure Stallone heard about that.
Sure.
I bet you, he like he sent him like a ruler. No, he sent him a tape measure. He's like, look, this is where I am. This is where you are. And then Stallone's like, oh my God, I can't do it. Yeah.
That's weird to
I can
think
see
because,
Stallone crying that he's shorter than Arnie.
yeah, that means I guess I'm taller than Sylvester Stallone, which I didn't think was possible because I think I'm at least 180.
I mean,
Okay, interesting.
I only
Uh,
knew feet and inches, so I don't know.
I've lived too long in Europe now. I only think in the metric system. I can't do the imperial system anymore. I don't know how it
You know what
works.
the
I've
fuck a
forgotten
quarter
it.
pounder is?
Although what's really weird though, at least here in Bulgaria, so everything obviously is in the metric system, but except TV sizes, they're always in inches. It's like, I don't know what that means. What the fuck is 11 inches? What the fuck is 60 inches? Tell me in centimeters. I can't
11,
visualize that in my head.
yeah, you can, because like 11 inches, it's 1 inch away from a foot, isn't it? So you can
I thought you were going
visualize
to
it.
say,
It's like the
well,
length of a
it's
ruler,
just 1 inch shorter
a
than my
typical
dick.
classroom 30 centimeter ruler. No, I mean, I do have my own metric of measurement for that, because it's just so astronomical. So I have to have a new metric that people don't use.
Jesus Christ. Uh, should we now, like, because we're a little bit over an hour, should we rate this movie?
Yeah, let's rate it. Let's rate it. How many dumbbells out of 10 do you give this film?
Well, dumbbells is an interesting measurement to use for this movie because there's not too many of them. Uh, if I rate them for dumbbells, it's like I'm implying if I say it's a lot, if I give it a lot of dumbbells, it's like this is very much like the focus of the movie, but it's not really. So, I did like this movie. I'm not sure I'll watch it again anytime soon. It's interesting. I'll probably give it, out of how many did you say? What was the max number?
10.
10. Oh, okay. I thought you said some random number like 13 or 27. Out of 10, I think it,
Okay,
I
actually, no,
feel
no,
like
no,
I
no,
give
no,
a
no,
lot,
you're right. We're gonna do, it out of 23. 23 dumbbells.
23 dumbbells. Alright then. I'm gonna give it like, mm, at least a 15 dumbbells. Although I
15
do
dumbbells.
feel like probably some people might put it a bit lower. It's heavy, yeah. What
I
about
mean,
you?
it is a hard one to rate. It's hard because it's like, it's a very different film. It's, it's not something, if you're looking for an Arnie film, you're not getting it with this. If you're looking for a Jeff Bridges film, it's Jeff Bridges like you've never seen him before. If you're here for Freddy Krueger, yeah, well, you're not going to get him, but you're going to get Robert Englund, who's fucking great. Um, it's a bit all over the place. There's a lot going on. None of it really seems to connect with each other. In most of the scenes are just sort of in there to hear some music, to do a little dance, to show Jeff Bridges smiling. Sally, to be fair, they really let their relationship breathe. Like, we really do get to see them grow closer together. It's quite nice. So, you know, it's not without reason. It just feels so disjointed from itself. I suppose when we look at the film as a whole, okay, it does make sense. It does, there is a clear narrative. There is a plot. But when you're watching it, it all just feels so disjointed, and, it doesn't feel like this from scene to scene. It feels like you're watching a different film sometimes. The themes change, the tone changes, everything changes. But it's very interesting. It's well performed with a lot of actors before their prime as well. Um, So cut a long story short, I do like this movie. It's not great though. I mean, I would give it maybe, maybe 14 or 15, I think is right for dumbbells. But out of 10, I think it's like a 6, a 6.1, I guess. Like, there's not much to enjoy as well. Like, it's not an action film. There's when it does pick up, it's actually quite difficult to watch when it gets, more climactic. And there's still some incredibly weird directorial flourishes. Like, there's one bit where one of the prostitutes is like hanging upside down from the ceiling and he's just like poking her and swinging her. And you're like, what? Really? That's a weird choice. Like, there's just weird choices. It's just weird choice after weird choice, especially the pose off at the end where they all just start posing in the middle of the street. Seemingly because, like, why would any of them leave the competition when your biggest threat in the competition has just walked out? You'd all stay there, wouldn't you? In case they're like, okay, well, we'll give it to the runner-up then. Like, but no, they all follow him out and he goes to the gym. They all start posing in the street. Really, really weird climax. So,
yeah,
I think the weirdness of the film is actually really worth watching, in all fairness, because I've never seen a film make choices like this one does. It's very strange. I think it's just a strange, strange film. And it just happens to have people that you probably really liked before they were huge. And I quite like the film, but it's hard to watch. I don't think I'll be watching it again anytime soon. It's a hard, I was watching the film. I'm like, okay, well, when can I start watching another thing? Like, I want to get to another thing now. About the halfway mark, I'm like, yeah, I'm sort of done with this, but let's pick up the pace. And it's quite a slow film. So yeah, 6.1
it is a
or
bit slow.
14 dumbbells.
We have a lot of films that we rate 6 point something, don't we? I was also thinking this is really a film about the South, the changing South, if anything.
Yeah.
Like, and then just bodybuilding at the side. But yeah.
But it's also
Interesting.
about, Jeff Bridges sort of coming to terms with the death of his family and choosing to take a different path that was laid out before him, because he feels like, I don't know, maybe a bit lost or disenfranchised from it all. There was a Confederacy flag hanging in the gym. Did you see that?
I noticed that, yeah.
That.
I remember. Yeah. Well, but that's the thing about changing times. We're in the middle of a change. The change isn't finished yet. It's still happening. So, like, it's a bit mixed. There's some nice shit, but there's also a lot of horrible shit. And it coexists, That's how I would see it anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Shall we wrap this up?
Let's do it. Do you have a rating out of 10, Craig?
I'll probably say the same as you, about 6.1. Right. I'm trying to avoid giving everything a 6 because I do think we give things a lot of 6s. But I kind of like watching 6s because there's always something nice there. But you can get to discuss the awkward shit as well, which I think is important.
6 ain't bad.
But on IMDb, yeah, it's not bad. It just could be better. On IMDb, this is 5.6. So actually, we rated it higher than most people.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not surprised if I'm honest. It's a very odd film. The tone has been all over the place. So I can see why people are only really liking it because they're like, oh, look, it's Freddy Krueger. Oh, look, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, look, it's Jeff Bridges. Like, they're not really concerned with the plot so much. They're just seeing where these guys came from. And Sally Field, as well. Scatman Crothers. Oh, look,
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see where these all, that they all had a movie together and it's a really weird group of people, but like it does kind of work.
Yeah, indeed.
Anyway, let's wrap up, Craig. let's wrap up. Thank you everyone for coming out to listen to us. We are Film Shrapnel. Go check us out on all the social medias. And if Spotify isn't your thing, you can check us out on other podcasting platforms as well. Thank you for listening. Arnold, I know you're out there and you'll be listening to us because it is officially Arnie season. We are doing Arnie movies now for the foreseeable future until such a time as we run out or can't be asked.
Lovely. And yeah, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us primarily on Twitter and Instagram. And you can get updates and shit that we're doing, basically. Bye.
Take care indeed. Bye.
Film Shrapnel.